Thank you for reaching another video. First and foremost, thank you if you watched the last video where we went over virtual network concepts. In this video, we're going to go over network security concept fundamentals, which is actually the scope that I like to get into long term, what they call it, info security or cybersecurity. Now, what we do need to understand is network security needs to be implemented and maintained on a corporate network um, to ensure that the network resources are protected from exploitation through different threat actors. And the threat actors may be malicious, leading to network resources temporarily inaccessible or becoming permanently unavailable in the worst case scenario. And of course, security measures need to be implemented to ensure that network resources are protected. So we're going to go over a few things. We're going to go over defense in depth, authentication methods. I'm going to talk a little bit about some resource risk management and exploring security information and event management or SIEM, which is I've done multiple videos on that prior to today. Um, Pretty much things within that wheelhouse or those wheelhouses, multi-factor authentication, separated of duties, networking, security risk assessment, and things of that nature that are pretty much in line with the CIA triad as well. I'm not going to talk too much about that, um, but pretty much along those guidelines, right? So, in order, what helps to do this is looking at common vulnerabilities, right, and exposures, which can be published to prevent the exploitation of known vulnerabilities, right? Specific OSs and application software. And there's actually a website that was launched in the late 1990s by the MITRE Corporation. And its purpose is to provide organizations with information on known vulnerabilities in OSs and software to increase the cybersecurity posture of organizations, right? And a zero-day attack is one of them. And it can actually be defined as a cybersecurity vulnerability in the software that the developer or the vendor of the software is unaware of. And hackers can exploit these vulnerabilities until the software developer has found a resolution for the vulnerability and created an update for it, which is normally distributed by software updates or patches. So exploring vulnerabilities in order to limit the um, the threat of zero day exploits, Microsoft runs the security updates email service that automatically sends out emails to subscribers that outline security updates to Microsoft software. And let me make sure I get this in here. Right. And there are so many reasons as to why this is helpful knowledge for security admin, although it also limits the attack surface with zero-day threats specifically. But additionally, a network administrator can use resources available on the internet, like this website here that I pulled up, available to keep up to date with the latest discovered vulnerabilities, right? So if we search here, we can search on the CVE list, right? Common vulnerabilities and exposures, right? And I'm actually going to pull up an actual vulnerability happened in 2021, 959. And we'll see the scripting engine memory corruption vulnerability, right? And this website can be used to find vulnerabilities that weren't detected for a specific OS. And in this example, a vulnerability that was detected on the Windows OS is displayed here with the CVE 31959. Now, to help out with this a bit, you may want to have some least privilege, ensuring that network resources are only accessible to authorized users. That's best practice. And having only role-based access control, which can be achieved by assigning access to specific resources to users according to the role or function that these specific users need to perform, which I touched on in another video. As far as implementing that resolution, as well as illuminating, not illuminating, but showcasing how that can actually be physically done. But a part of it is authentication methods, right? Which is the process, or authentication particularly is the process of validating a user's identity, right? So when a user attempts to log on to a system, um, um, user credentials are usually validated to verify their identity right now before the user is granted access to any object. Right, on the network or even on the system, the user's identity must be validated using not the an authentication process, right? Like password-based, multi-factor, certificate-based, biometric. And what I'm going to do actually is go over one of the few that can't be physically. It can be enforced here, but obviously that's something that we can't use, and that's going to. I'll show you here in a second. Actually, not going to spoil it, but I'm going to head to the users and computers for Server Manager. And I'm actually going to do something with one of the users for a particular group. Yep, I'm going to use marketing. I'm going to use Jane. Right. Take a look at Jane's property as her roles, users, responsibility. And then it gives me account options. All right. Now we can see what's already been checked. Password never expires. That is still terrible, but I'll leave it here because it's allowed. All right. So I'm actually going to do a smart card is required for interactive log on. I'm going to hit apply. Okay. Actually going to log out of here. Okay. Sign out. I'm going to attempt to sign back in under Jane Brown's credentials to see what happens. We kind of really know what's going to happen, but again, I wanted to illustrate exactly what happens when we're doing it properly. Just a second. So as you can see, I have Jane's credentials in just to verify the smart card log on capability. I've configured this user to log on with the smart card. That means if the user does not have it, then the user will not be able to log in when you enable the smart card and the password is still required. After I provided the username and password, I'll still need to use the smart card. So I'm going to sign in as a means of testing it, and I get the response that I'm expecting. I must use Windows Hello or Smart Card to sign in, and and as we can see, it did not provide me access. Now, of course, again, as I mentioned, due to the system limitations of this lab, I won't be able to proceed beyond this step, at least with Jane, right? But there's a few things you can do with this, not just this way. We could also have some terminal access controller, like our access control system plus, right? You could have SSO. I wouldn't particularly use that. You can have remote authentication dial-in user service, and you can actually have like some sort of lightweight directory access protocol or LDAP, which is used for authentication between server and client applications. Um, and Linux and Windows systems can be integrated using the LDAP authentication as well. Use Kerberos and a few others as far as ways to have that risk management. Now, lastly, what we're going to do is explore security information and event management very lightly in comparison to my prior videos, but each application OS system generates various types of events, and these events are captured in logs maintained by a tool or service, which is the SIEM, typically, right? And they can be used for doing something like a forensic investigation, right? Because it provides a continuous view of the events, thereby helping monitor things like system health outside of looking for anything that's malicious. Now, SIEMs are usually the best choice. You want to filter out unnecessary event information and collate only the required security specific events, right? So I'm actually going to pivot back over to Win10, and we're going to take a look at Microsoft Edge. And I'm actually going to type in an address so we can head over to a SIEM. It's not supposed to be there. There it is. Okay. All right, perfect. So I can just head on to log in. Perfect. Now, this is a locally hosted Log 360 website. And of course, me being in the lab already, the username and password are already entered in for me, at least um, for this particular site. So let's take a look at the event log, actually, in particular. It doesn't take a while to load. So we have the dashboard fully loaded up for us, and I'm going to actually take a look at all of the devices. And looks like we have our server, our very own servers, DCO1, DMO1, and Win10, right? I'm actually going to hover over here, and I'm actually going to scan DC, so we can take a look and see what we find. Now, these devices, while they have been listed as detected by the SIM tool and the correct credentials were populated, to ensure a scan of these devices would be successfully conducted. I just wanted to put that out there. But while it's scanning, I actually just, oh, that was really quick. Okay, so let's actually click on it. Let's take a look at our log sources. Take a look at our important event first, right? And of course, the different log events gathered by the specific devices, well, at least initially, were displayed. And then in the important events tab, which what we're in now, critical events are viewed or can be viewed, and if necessary, they can also be remediated, right? As far as failed log, on log, usually to audit policy change and things of that nature. And we can actually head back to the dashboard. Now, the dashboard, what it does is provide a bird's eye view pretty much of all the events that the Log 360 application has collected of the devices on the network. And it can also quickly assess if any critical events occurred on the network that needs attention or remediation. Now, we've reached the end of the video as far as our network security concept fundamentals, just the bare bones, right, of network security. And this was fun. This was definitely fun. It's going to be even more fun. The next one will be go over general network attacks. Again, diving a bit deeper, at least networking wise, on the secure side of it or security side of things, which is again my scope that I'm looking to get into. So this should be fun on the next one. I'll see you there. Stay curious, stay secure.